big, and we'll start up here. Thanks for coming today. Our main topic today is going to be Internet help and learning. We'll cover a lot of resources and tips there. First, a little bio about myself. I'm known as Tom, the PC guy, Kreuzer, because I have the personalized license plates, PC guy. I am the son of John Kreuzer here at Carondelet. I retired a number of years ago, about 6 years ago, from 3M after working there for 40 years in the 3M information technology. I currently present and am an officer in the 3M Personal Computing Club. So I've been in that we've had it for almost going on 50 years now. At its peak, we had 1,200 members. I mentioned that I'm thrifty, not cheap, so if there's a solution that is low cost or provides just as much benefit software-wise or hardware-wise, I'll usually recommend that. And I mentioned here, I recently started up a couple months ago because some of the other people that were providing help were unable to make it. So now I've been doing one-on-one free tech help. 30-minute slots. You can sign up 1 to 3 p.m. on most first and third Monday of the month there. And you can contact the front desk to sign up. My next one is actually this coming Monday from 1 to 3 p.m. Next general meeting here at Carondelet for November will be November 13th. And this will be a session on tech equipment buying. And in there, we'll cover things like what's popular to buy now in the tech area, some holiday ideas, where you can buy, how to check prices. It's kind of an annual deal that I do each year since the holidays are coming up and Black Friday and stuff like that. Also, I'll mention here, along with my sister and brother-in-law and my dad, we put on a Fix-It Clinic, and our next Fix-It Clinic is Monday, November 25th, and we fix lamps, fans, just about anything you can bring, and we'll try and fix it there. This is what we were just talking about with the Carondelet website. You can Google it, or if you can remember the spelling or that, just go out to CarondeletVillage.org. And on there, the past meetings, so if you miss any of the meetings, you can see the video and the handouts. Also, there's a calendar. You can ask a question and some other information out there. Okay, let's get to our main topic today, which is how to get internet help and learning. We'll talk about how and where to search, some of the things AI can help you with, manuals, tutorials, classes, and help, and just some general troubleshooting tips. So how to find help in learning. The internet can provide a wealth of free information. So there's a ton of stuff on the internet. It may take a little looking at several links to find a solution if you have a problem or a question, but you should be able to find the help or learn about whatever you want for just about anything in the world is out there. I used to say that, and I've added this bullet recently because AI, the combination of AI and chatbots and things like that, has only made finding help easier. So it's even easier than it was 2 years ago or 5 years ago. Okay, how and where to search for help? Well, I recommend using Google, but you can use any of the major search engines to type in your question. Most engines contain what's called an advanced search options, and that's what I'll describe next, because sometimes when you search, you get thousands or millions of sites or pieces of information, and so you may have to limit it or filter out exactly what you want. With the Chrome or Edge browser and a Google search, you don't even have to type nowadays. You can use the microphone. So if you're familiar on a smartphone, talking to your smartphone and not having to type, You can do the same thing on your computer to do the search, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Okay, if you're typing or asking a question, you don't have to worry about spelling or capitalization because actually Google will take care of it all automatically for you. So this is an example of a Google search here, and I didn't type this in, I just pushed this microphone button and we're able to speak it in, and we'll do that in a second here. Once you get results back, if you don't see exactly what you want, you can click on this Tools area and then do an advanced search to do some of these filtering things that we'll talk about next. You want to be as specific as possible when you're asking questions. And as an example, in this example, I asked the question, for an Android phone, I say Android, select multiple text messages. So how can I select multiple text messages in an Android phone? And we'll show that in a second. You can also limit what you get back. If you're looking for a video to show you how to do it, you can say all I want to see is the videos or news articles on it, images. So you can do some simple searches, or by using this tools here in advanced search, you can get a whole set of filters that you can use to filter out exactly what you're looking for there. So these are a complete list of filters that you have. So you can say, I want articles or videos that contain these words or don't contain these words, or if I wanted to do it, so I only wanted to see the stuff in Spanish, I could do Spanish. I could check a particular region. I could check just a website. And the website can be handy because I can just search on, let's say, on the Apple website or on the Microsoft website. I can just search their area there. So you have all these different filters, the date that it was, the video or the article was put out on the web. So you can search for just stuff that's been put out there the last week, or, I mean, not the last week, but maybe the last 6 months or the last year, so that you don't have any really, really old stuff. So you have all these options when searching. Let's go, oh, what did I do there? Accidentally went back here. Let's get where to search. So let's take a look next. Let's go out and actually do one here. Google Chrome. So this is a search. I'm in the Google search here, and I mentioned that on the Google search, if your device, your laptop or your desktop has a microphone, you can click on the microphone here and you can search by voice. So the search that we were doing is, if I click on Android, how to, oh, I started talking too much other, I'll be a little quiet here. Android, how to select multiple text messages. And so you can see I didn't have to type it all there. It just took my voice, translated it into text, did a search, and this is the searches that it came up with, or the results that it came up with. And if I just wanted to see videos of how to do on an Android phone, how to select multiple text messages, I could just click here and it's going to show me videos that do that. So you can easily kind of filter down or find the information that you're looking at. Also, I mentioned to get all of those advanced options, you click on Tools, and then there's this thing called Advanced Search. Once I do the Advanced Search, here's all those fields. I could check for by date, I could check for these words and not these other words, and if I only wanted to check the Microsoft website, I could check just the Microsoft website. So you can filter it out to get you exactly what you're looking for there. The other thing is the searches, almost all the searches now are using artificial intelligence also. So the first thing that the Google search came back with is you can see it says AI overview. So this is a response from artificial intelligence trying to give you the best answer. So it considers this to be the best answer here. And frequently it is the best answer. And it'll tell you, in this case, we asked it how to select multiple text messages on an Android device. It's telling us, well, first do a long tap on the first message you want to select, single tap other messages, and then you can hit the delete or to remove it. And if we want to see more, we can see more information on how to select there. So without even typing, I can do a simple or complex searches here to find answers to how to do things on my phone or on my computer or on just about anything there. And this is the example. Many Google search will start with this AI overview result. So if there's an AI result, it'll show up right at the top of your Google search there. One thing to be aware of when you do a search in Google, search results with the first word sponsored are from companies that pay to have their results shown and may not be a true indicator of how popular the results are. And they can be, really, the results may vary on how good it is, and they can be very biased. So if you're searching for laptops, the best laptops, let's go back to Google here, and we'll search, and I can use the voice again, best laptops. Oh, I did. I messed it up. I'll be quiet here. Best laptops. And so
here's information from Laptop Mag
with results showing different deals, but you'll see here's things called sponsored, and this means that the company usually paid money to have their results shown here. Like I say, the ones that are sponsored can have a bias. You're best to look at the ones that aren't sponsored to see what laptops, if they're recommending stuff. Because obviously if you go to an HP website and HP sponsored it, they're going to be recommending HP laptops, that you buy the HP laptop. Frequently you don't want to use the sponsored results there. Okay, let's go back here. So how and where to search, you also have, we mentioned artificial intelligence, AI. You may have heard of ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, even Alexa or Siri can provide answers for you. So if you're comfortable using those or that instead of a Google search, you can use those to ask questions or how to do things to see what it recommends. On a Windows PC, let's do this. Let me do. On a Windows PC, this is Windows 10. There should be a little icon down here, and this icon is called Copilot. This is a way to bring up the Microsoft artificial intelligence. It's free. If we bring it up here, we'll start it up. You can ask questions of it. You can do anything. It's free to use for certain things. There's some things that if you want to use, you have to pay a subscription, but most of it's free there. But you can ask it all kinds of questions. Also, there's other sites and other I mentioned Gemini is Google's AI. You can just go out to that chat bot and do things. And so there's all these services to help you find answers or to converse with it to get better results there. Okay, some other kind of tips there on searching for help and that. If you're looking for help, and frequently it's good to go out to the vendor site. So if you're having a problem with something from Microsoft, you usually want to go out to the Microsoft site and look. If it's a problem with Google, you can go out to the Google site and look. Or if it's a problem with an iPhone or a Mac or things like that, you can go out to the Apple site and search and look for the answers out there. So instead of just going to Google and searching the entire internet, it's usually best to start out at the vendor site if the vendor has a site that you can use. If you're looking for product reviews, like the best laptops or the best phones or things like that, that's where you want to get unbiased reviews of products and what's in the best category. And this is an example of some of the best sites that give unbiased reviews of all the vendors in that. So the ones that I recommend, PC Magazine, this ZDNet, Tom's Guide. It's not, I don't do this site, just happens that a guy that does it is called Tom, but it's a well-respected site on the internet. And then there's also one called Make Use Of. Another one that can be helpful if you're trying to learn how things work or that is a site of howstuffworks.com. And so that's an excellent site if we click on it and go out there. And if you're not familiar with PCs and want to become more familiar with some of the things in there and that, this is a good site to teach you about a personal computer and monitors and different things that are out there. So it's kind of a nice little site there. Yeah. There are many sites out there where you can ask a question, and those some are from the vendors and some are just general public or groups of people. So there's a wealth of places to ask questions also. Just like out on the Carondelet site, you can ask a question and that goes to me. While some of these others are, they may have thousands of members, and you ask a question and you get a response from a number of members on what they're doing or how they're doing it. So that can be very useful also. And I mentioned here at Carondelet, you can sign up for the one-on-one free computer help with myself or some of the other helpers there. Excuse me, another option if you have an Apple product is at all of it, or not all of it, but most of the locations, especially like the Mall of America and that, they have what's called the Genius Bar. And the Genius Bar, you can go out to the website and sign up for help, or you can just show up at the store, and if they're not busy, they'll take you in and show you how to do stuff right at the store there. So the Genius Bar can be real helpful for the Apple products there. Don't take your Windows product to the Genius Bar, but certainly an iPhone or a Mac or an iPad questions, or if you're having trouble getting it set up or that, that's an option there. This is an option, another option for a Microsoft or a Windows machine if you're having problems. On all of the Windows 10 and Windows 11 machines, there's an app out there called Get Help. And so it's in the menu, or if you search for it on the machine, you can search for Get Help. It's part search engine, part portal for reaching Microsoft customer support. It's been installed on Windows 10 and 11, and it's free to use. You start with a virtual AI chatbot providing answers to your questions. So it pops up a screen. you put in what you're having trouble with or what the question is, and it'll ask you questions and you answer it and go back and forth, and hopefully it can get you an answer. But if it can't get you an answer or you're having other difficulties there, you can say that you want to message a person. You can just type in human and it'll connect you with a human that'll in the chat. They won't call you on the phone, but a human will start conversing with you and asking you questions, and you can ask it questions there. So that's a nice way if you have a question or a problem with Microsoft Windows, and it's on every computer there. So let's just take a quick look at that. So if I go out to the Windows menu, the Start menu down here, if I click on that, let's go here. Excuse me here, let's go down here. And if I go through here, it's under the G, you'll see Get Help. There's an icon to Get Help, and it'll open up a window, and I can start asking Microsoft questions there. Okay. Okay, another thing that I find handy or that is manuals. Now, most everything that you buy today doesn't come with a manual. So a lot of them will give you a quick start guide, a page or two to get going. But in the old days, you used to maybe get a 10-page, or if it was a complicated item, a booklet almost of the manual for it. But today, the vendors, to save money, and most people weren't reading them or they'd lose them, they no longer include them in almost everything that you buy. So most vendors no longer provide a printed manual with their products, but you can find many of the full manuals online. You can search using the vendor and the model number along with the word manual, and so you can frequently find these manuals. When you find the manual, they're usually, you can view them online at the site. I usually recommend saving it to your laptop or that. And I usually, if I buy a new refrigerator, or I buy a new TV, or I buy a new smartphone, or I buy a new computer, I usually go out and search for the manual, save it to my PC, and I keep all the manuals in a directory or a folder on my computer there. That way I'll have it if I want to look at it a year from now or 6 months from now, or I'm having a problem with the alarm clock isn't working right. I can open up the manual and see what buttons to push or what to do there. Some people I know, when they find the manual, just print it out. And I do not recommend printing out the manual, because if you print it out, then you have to have a place to store it, and frequently they get lost or that. It's just easier keeping everything on your computer, out on a folder on your computer. And also then it makes it easy when you do want to look anything up, because if you're familiar with PDF files, when you open it up, I can search. So let's say it's that clock radio. If I want to set an alarm, I can search for alarm, and it'll take me right to that section that talks about how to set an alarm. So I can easily search and find what I'm looking for with these PDF files. And then also I mentioned here, when you're buying things like a smartphone, a PC, a TV, a tablet, I recommend downloading the manual, and maybe not right away, but eventually start reading it almost cover to cover. If you do that, you'll expose yourself to thousands or hundreds, if not thousands, of features and functions you most likely would never know about the device that you bought. The classic example I tell people is a lot of people have their smartphones, but most people don't know how to use the camera on here. Well, how to use the camera and all the features and functions of the camera are in the manual. If you go through and read the manual, it'll tell you how to change the mode and how to do this and how to change that. And so a couple of weeks ago, people were trying to take pictures of the northern lights, and now you have the comet out there. Well, they were just pushing the button on their camera, but if you wanted the best picture, you had to usually go into your camera and change its mode so that it was on night vision. If you had it on night vision, the northern lights and some of these other things show up a lot better and a lot more colors than if you were just shooting a regular photo of a family member or a cat or something like that. So knowing how to get at these special features and functions, if you read the manual, you'll get exposed to that and know how to do these different things. And this is where I mentioned most people that I know only know about 10 to 20% of what their smartphone camera can do. They've never read the manual. They're just happy that they can push a button and they get a picture. But if you know all these features and functions and how to turn them on and off and different things like that, you'll end up with a lot better pictures and you'll realize how really sophisticated and good most of these cameras are. I mentioned here, I said before, I'm thrifty and not cheap. I go to garage sales and church sales, and I frequently buy old electronics or tech equipment there. And frequently, well, there usually never is a manual or anything there, but I can go online, I can get a manual, and I can figure out how to set it or how to run it with the manual there. Okay, the other thing you can get on the internet is tutorials. So if you're looking how to do something, whether it's doing word processing, doing a spreadsheet, editing photos or things like that, there's a ton of tutorials out there. And some of the tutorials, if you already have a package, so let's say you're using Microsoft Word and you want to learn more of how to use Microsoft Word, well, there's a menu item called Help. And under that Help is a ton of different tutorials on how to use the package. Also, a lot of packages you can hit the F1 key to see what help is available for that package. There's also a number of tutorials and classes, millions of videos, and I've done a presentation before about YouTube where we talked about the wealth of videos out there to train you, and education classes, all the way from preschool type things to PhD type things. If you want to know how to do nuclear fission, there's classes out there on how to do nuclear fission. So there's a ton of stuff out there. There's other sites like the Khan Academy. They have really thousands of free classes, and they're all free, and they're all, like I say, they vary from grade school all the way up to PhD level. There's TED Talks. There's stuff available, Libby on OneDrive. Libby is a service that if you have a library card or that from the St. Paul or Minneapolis, that gives you access to a ton of online resources and classes there. This I mentioned, I don't recommend buying a book. People used to always ask me when they got a new computer or that, what book do you recommend? When there were more bookstores and that. But even now that there aren't bookstores around, I've never recommended books really for anybody because there's so much free content out on the web. So number one, you don't have to pay for a book. The other is, the books are usually so outdated with old versions or stuff like that because by the time somebody writes it, it gets published, it gets sent out to the stores to sell, it's out of date. There's a new version of the software or things like that out there. So if you're learning how to use an iPad, well, it's talking about the iPad version 2 or 3 years ago instead of the current one, that kind of thing. And then you can always search for help, just like we were doing earlier, doing a Google search, try something and ask a question. The more specific you are in your search, the better your results. So you can do things like if you're doing a spreadsheet and how do I filter in Excel, you can do that and it'll show you examples and you can even view videos there. Okay, now next we'll talk about some troubleshooting tips. These are troubleshooting tips if you've got a computer, whether it's a Mac or a Windows or even a phone or that, and it's not working. You know, something isn't working on it. Number one tip is don't panic, slow down. Most problems have simple solutions, although it may take a little bit of time to find out what you have to do. This you've probably heard before from people is rebooting or restarting the device solves in some cases 50% of the problems that people are having. So it solves a lot of problems, whether it's problems with a software package or a hardware that isn't working right. If the machine is kind of frozen, a phone or laptop or TV, even now TVs and that, restarting it will fix a lot of problems. And restarting it, like with a TV, usually means unplugging it from the wall. It doesn't mean just turning it off, because nowadays turning off your TV with the remote control doesn't completely turn off the power to the TV. But if you unplug it and then plug it back in, that is like resetting the TV, and that'll fix a lot of problems there. And I mentioned in here some of the, like a laptop, my laptop here, it's not just a matter of pushing the button here. If I want to restart it, I have to hold it down for 10 seconds. So some of the devices you have to do special things, and if you've read the manual would have told you this is, if you want to restart it, this is what you have to do. If your devices do have an error, so you're doing something in a software package or hardware and an error message pops up, be sure to write it down to know exactly what it is. Some people, if it's like on a laptop or a desktop, what I've recommended to people is if you have a camera, you have your phone and camera, you can take a picture of it. And that way you'll capture the error message and exactly what it was saying. So when it comes to talking to somebody, whether you're talking to myself or somebody else for help, you'll be able to explain, this is exactly what I was showing on the screen of my computer, and this is the exact error there. If the trouble was with a monitor, printer, or other hardware, then usually disconnect all the cables and plug them back in. So sometimes the printer, if the printer isn't printing, it can be just a simple case of because you've moved the printer, or maybe over the last year or 2 years, the cable has gotten loose and come out. So just checking if the cables are plugged in. The other troubleshooting is use the process of elimination. Make a list of the things that could be causing the problem and then test them one by one to eliminate them. Example for a printer. If the printer's not printing, well, all printers can print a test page. So that doesn't require a computer, doesn't require a cable. You can print a test page from the printer itself. Well, if you print that test page, now you confirm that the printer is working, and the problem has to be either in a computer or in the cable to connect it, or if it's a Wi-Fi connection, has to be the Wi-Fi there. So this process of elimination can help you try and pinpoint exactly where the problem is. Try to narrow your problem down to see if it's a hardware or software problem. Hardware problem, figure out your options, because if it is a hardware problem and you try a bunch of things on the internet and you can't get it working and you kind of run out of things to try, then you have some tough decisions to make. Do you buy something new? Do you restore or use a backup to try and get something? Do you reset the operating system? And all of that, that's a personal decision. How much money do you have? How much time do you want to spend trying to fix it? Or do you have access to somebody to help you try and fix it there? So that'll help you make decisions about whether you try and do a plan B or try and do things there. Because each of those are going to result in maybe costing some money or some time there. For operating system problems, you can go to the Apple Store that I mentioned earlier. You can use the Microsoft Get Help to get free expert help. So you have that available. If it was purely a hardware problem, you think it's a hardware problem, a hard disk isn't working or something like that. In the past, some of the local computer stores would do a free estimate on how much to fix the problem. Nowadays, most of the businesses will charge you to even look at your machine. So they may say we have a basic fee of $50 to diagnose the machine there. If they diagnose that you need a new hard drive or you need something replaced, if you have them replace it, usually that $50 will go towards whatever the cost would be to replace it. If you decide, well, it's really not worth it, you're out the $50 for them taking a look at it. So that's a decision people have to make nowadays is, again, how much time, how much money are you willing to put into it? If a software or app isn't working on your phone or tablet or computer, usually the first thing to do is uninstall it and then reinstall it. So that, just like unplugging and plugging, that can fix an awful lot of problems by uninstalling and installing. Make sure you have the most current version of software. Look under the help settings in the App Store to see if there's an update. Seek help from others, so certainly talk to friends or neighbors or family members. You may be headed down the wrong path. You can always contact me with a question or sign up for a slot with the Carondelet computer tutor. One thing I recommend is the minute you start kind of troubleshooting yourself and doing stuff, keep track of what you're doing. Because if you write down or document the steps that you're taking, that can be handy if we have to undo the changes that you've made, or if you talk to other people, it can save you time and effort there. If you think that you may be making lots of changes to Windows or installing all kinds of new things, Windows lets you create what's called a restore point. And this restore point is kind of what it sounds like. It takes a snapshot of what it looks like and the way the machine is configured. And if you do have a problem adding some new hardware or software and then it has problems, you can go back to that restore point and in most cases be back to where you were before you started installing the new hardware or software. Run a thorough virus scan after making sure the definitions are up to date. This is viruses are rare. People think that they happen all the time to people, and they frequently think that their machine isn't working because it's infected. That's usually not the case. It's usually some other problem with the computer. And then make sure you have not run out of hard disk space or solid state disk space on the machine. That causes all kinds of problems. I mentioned this, uninstall software apps you're no longer using. So whether it's your phone or a laptop or anything like that, we all will load stuff up, maybe use it for a little while, and then we no longer use it or need it. Well, if you uninstall it, your machine's going to be faster, it's going to have more free space, everything's going to work better. Last resort, if things aren't working on the computer, is all computers have a reset capability where you can usually restore it to factory defaults. You lose any data that was on the machine, any of your personal data, but at least you'll be able to start as if you're starting back over with a brand new machine there. Okay, that's covered a lot of things there, went pretty fast. Any questions or comments on the help and how to look for things there? And like I say, artificial intelligence has made a lot of these things help a little bit easier to find, but certainly the Google searches and things like that can all point you in the right direction, and the YouTube videos on how to do things are there, so there's a lot of options nowadays. Yeah?
For Wi-Fi, if I don't use the laptop for about a week or it'll get off the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Wi-Fi routers, the way all of them work is when you turn on your computer, it knows that it doesn't have a Wi-Fi connection. So then it connects to what's called a Wi-Fi router and will get a connection. That connection is not a permanent connection, because if it was a permanent connection, that would mean that only X number of people would be able to connect over the course of a year or so to this router. You get a temporary connection. As long as you're sending and receiving information from the Wi-Fi router, your connection will be active. But if you turn it off, or your machine is even just kind of sleeping, your connection between the router and your machine, you'll be disconnected because it frees it up so that somebody else can connect to the router. Other people at Carondelet can connect. And all of that is happening in the background, so you don't have to do anything. It should be handled automatically by your phone or by your laptop or by your device there. But that connecting and disconnecting is always being done. It's always checking to see whether you're still active, because it's not only computers nowadays. We have a lot of devices, even in your apartment. If you have an Alexa device, if you have smart outlets, if you have cameras, if you have, in my particular house, I'm a little more overboard, but I have like 40 things connected to my internet. Just with different machines and phones and tablets and TVs. I have. But you think of all the things now. If you had to buy a new refrigerator, that's Wi-Fi enabled. If you have a garage door opener, that's Wi-Fi enabled. All these things are connecting to the Wi-Fi, and if they permanently connected to the Wi-Fi, that would mean that other devices couldn't use it, and you'd run out of connections to the Wi-Fi. So it's constantly disconnecting and connecting. If a device isn't being used or is turned off, or let's say you got a brand new phone, well, the old phone doesn't need a connection anymore, and so the new phone can essentially use the connection, one of the connections that the other had. Okay?
Yeah, so it's like I'm taking a plug out.
I didn't catch so you disconnected?
You have an electrical plug. You take it out of the wall and then don't put it back in.
Yeah, depending on what you have. So if I have a laptop, that's going to run off the battery.
Yeah, I just mentioned general.
Okay. In general, yeah. If there's no power, it's not connected, and so it's not listening or it's not connected or anything there. But when you do plug it in or turn it on, that's when it will attempt to connect to the Wi-Fi and what's available there. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for saying that about restart.
I didn't quite get
Stop
that.
and restart. That, I'm glad you said that. That's easy to do it, but it helps.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of this stuff is happening kind of automatically in the background. It's only when we have problems with stuff. So in a connection, a Wi-Fi connection like here at Carondelet, they have routers about every 50 feet at least. So there's, in the entire buildings, you're talking 100, maybe 100 routers or more routers. And the reason for that is each router can only handle so many devices. And the signal only travels so far. So if you're trying to cover a big area, it can take a lot of routers, and then if you have a lot of devices and a lot of people, you have that. Okay. There was a question in back. Yep.
Well, I have this little AT&T phone that I carry with me, and they don't have an instruction book anymore, and I couldn't use it for a while. So now I've forgotten how the heck I should get on to it again. And they don't have it as an instruction book, and I signed up for 1 year. It's quite a deal, and their grandfather in, so I can still do it. But I don't know how to start.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. The phone that you have looks like a flip phone, and there's nothing wrong with a flip phone. In fact, they still sell flip phones today because some people say, I don't need the apps and I don't need all the stuff. All I want to do is make a call, answer a call, get a text message, things like that. So they still work. You should be able to find a manual. Actually, I've found manuals for stuff that's 20 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So frequently the vendor will still have a manual, or some other site will still have a manual out there.
He said they didn't have a manual.
If you call the vendor, you may not, but do a Google search and type if you know the model of the phone, type the model, if it's a Motorola MG4, you type that in and with the word manual, and that'll usually come up with a number of sites that may have a manual there. And it'll tell you that phone's pretty basic, but it'll tell you how to turn it on and turn it off, and some of the capabilities that it has. So there's not a whole lot of capability there. Most people would get a smartphone, and you can get smartphones starting at about $30. So, but it's a little more complicated to use, but it has a lot more, it has a lot better camera, the way that you text. If you text on the old flip phones, you had to use the number pad, and so if you wanted the letter C, you had to hit the number 1 3 times, and so there's a learning curve, I guess, with any of these devices here, but if you're having trouble or have some questions there, you can sign up for one of the slots on a Monday there, and I can sit down and we can do some of the basics on there of starting it up. But if the phone itself is getting old, the battery usually is not going to hold as much of a charge, and so if you're using it when you go out and the battery isn't working and you have nowhere to plug it in, that's where these types of phones nowadays, they usually recommend that you get a new phone about every 3 or 4 years, and that just because of the batteries, the technology, the cameras are better, everything's improved there. Okay? Yeah, I think you had a question or another question or comment? Yeah.
Well, is there a manual or instruction booklet that kind of reviews all the processes and applications that you need to know to use a smartphone?
Yeah, I'll repeat that because that was a good question, and I've forgotten to repeat some of the things on the recordings. They won't come up. The question was: is there a manual talking about the number of apps or the different apps and things like that you have? There isn't one manual to tell you all the different things that it can do. The manuals that you have for like a smartphone here will talk about the capabilities of the phone itself. And those capabilities usually are like the camera. What capabilities, the quality of the camera, how to switch it, if you can set a default for video recording and still photos and all of those types of things. When you start talking about what this phone can do, well, this phone can do a million things. No one person is doing a million things. The way that you use the phone is different than the way I use the phone, which is different than somebody next to you uses the phone. Everybody does different things on it. The number of apps that I could load onto this phone, if I go out to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, there's currently close to 3 million apps out there. I couldn't load that many on here, nor could I keep track of that many, but there's apps to do all kinds of things, and everybody has different things that they want to do. One of the presentations I give, I talk about the best apps, and the best apps is a list, and if you don't have that, I recommend go out to the website, and that's the Carondelet website, and look for the past meeting and look for best apps, and that's a list of over 300 broken down by different categories. So these are good ones if you are into photography. These are good ones if you're into cooking. These are good ones if you want news and things like that. These are good ones if you want to do travel. These are good ones, so everybody's got different interests. And again, one person is not going to load even all 300, but this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what's out there. The beauty of most of these apps is they cost nothing. So you can download it, you can try it. If you don't like it, download something else, try something else, and that. But there's almost anything that you can think of, there's kind of apps out there to help you and to do things there. Yeah.
What is the model for the make Jitterbug different from a regular smartphone?
Jitterbug is a model of a phone. They tried to simplify it by addressing some of the problems that senior citizens have, which is eyesight problems, so they attempt to make things a little bit bigger. They attempt to make some of the buttons a little bit bigger and that. And so there's things that can be done there. I'm not a real fan necessarily of Jitterbug. What's that?
Why are Jitterbugs so much cheaper than
Well, we could spend a lot of time on discussing cell phone plans. So to give you an example, my phone here, I have a plan from T-Mobile. The T-Mobile plan that I have is what's called a prepaid plan. I pay $15 a month for my prepaid plan, which is less than, and I get 5 gigabytes of cell data to connect to the internet. And in a typical month, I only use less than 1 gigabyte of data. I'm not doing a lot of stuff where I require unlimited data out there. So there's all these different plans. T-Mobile or AT&T or Verizon, the main 3 vendors, have about 20 different plans each. They only advertise a few at the top. Some of their unlimited plans and their family plans and some of these other deals there. But they have all these other plans, so they can compete with a Jitterbug or a Consumer Cellular, Straight Talk, or it used to be, people would buy the prepaid cards, so many minutes and things like that. You don't have to anymore with plans as low as $10 a month for a phone and text, unlimited telephone calls, unlimited texting and stuff like that for $10 a month with no other charges, no other fees, no other charges. So there's plans out there, all these different plans, and which plan is right for you. That's why you kind of have to do a little investigation. You have to know what you want, and then you can find a plan there. But the phones themselves, that Jitterbug will sell, they'll sell you the plan and the phone. And the idea with the phone is they claim that it's much easier to use. Now, it can be easier to use, but then you're giving up some regular functionality that if I bought a $39 smartphone or that, I'd have a better camera, I'd have more capability, more memory, things like that on the phone. That my argument would be, depending on, again, what are you looking to do with it, you may not need that many apps on the phone, so you don't have to load all kinds of apps if all you're doing is making calls and checking your email. And I have all my contacts on here, and my calendar's on here. I think the most important things on any phone are your email, your contacts, your calendar, because that's my life on here. I've got, when I last met some people, I keep track of that on here, and I put dates in my contacts, and my calendars have all the birthdays, and it notifies me, and all these things there. So there are tremendous tools in there just using the basic functionality of the phone there. Okay, other questions, comments? Yeah.
Well, for, I know it says like for getting help, you could either say, human if you didn't want to have the AI. So eventually, is it going to be all artificial intelligence?
Yeah, good question. Almost everything that you call today is using AI, and they'll ask questions and they'll ask you to, state what you want, and it'll attempt to do that. The reason they're doing that is because a lot of questions that people have are relatively simple questions, and the AI is very good at answering simple questions there. So the AI, instead of having 100 or 1,000 people at a call center waiting for somebody to call in, I can, if I'm a company, I can have an AI system, and I can reduce my cost and therefore not have to raise the price of my products or service or anything like that, because I don't have a human on the other end. People will still keep a human on the other end because some problems can't be solved by AI or asking the questions there. But there's a cost to have that human on the other end to answer a question or to spend time. So let's say it's something as complicated as Social Security or Medicare. Well, how much can an AI do there? Because if people can't articulate their question or their problem to the AI, chances are the AI can't tell them a real good solution. So that's hard for a human being to be able to figure out what your options are. And if you called Social Security one day and talked to one person, and then called the next day and talked to a different person, you're going to get two different answers. I don't know which one is right. Moving forward, I'd hope that the AIs would get better and be able to ask better questions. They're relatively new in the way that they interact. They'll chat with people, conversation, meaning a conversation. You talk and it talks back to you, but it's a computer looking up, this is what you asked, this is what I believe the answer is. And as that gets populated with more and more answers, you're going to end up with better support and better things there. So, and it only makes sense. It's similar to if you go to McDonald's. If you go to McDonald's, the option is to have somebody take your order or to have an AI chatbot take your order. Well, which is going to be more accurate? To tell you the truth, the chatbot's going to be more accurate than the person. Because the person is getting minimum wage, doesn't really care too much about you, doesn't, is bored with their job or whatever. So in some cases, the chatbot is a better option there when you have limited things. So if you were placing an order and you said, I want a Diet Coke, the chatbot knows immediately to say, did you want a small, medium, or large? Whereas the person, if it's a person on the other end, they may give you a large or whatever, or not even ask a question. So that in some cases, the chatbot is going to be more professional and potentially a lot better than the human being can be. And in the long run, that means that McDonald's is going to be able to replace the people that took the order there and do it cheaper, which means that they don't have to raise their prices and do things. So there's a lot of changes ahead. It's not going to happen quite overnight, but you're seeing it bit by bit improving there. And I don't know if you've ever, if you go into, let's use McDonald's again, and you go into McDonald's and you even if you walk into the counter and place your order, they've tried to make it as seamless as possible for people to take an order with either pictures on the cash register and things like that. And then if you give them a $20 bill, it tells how much to put out. But if you give them a $20 bill and some change so that you get all bills back, it's kind of like the world is imploded. Nobody knows how to make change. So yeah, it's going to be interesting times there, and hopefully all of this stuff will get better and better.
Yeah, they showed how robots eventually will be delivering people's lunches at the university.
Right, the robots and things like that. But okay, well, thanks. We've gone over there. Thanks for coming.